we're going to talk about the service industry and how people who go out for food or go out for any kind of service don't accommodate for the tips that they are not necessarily obligated to pay, but are expected to pay, and how that really affects the people in the service industry.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm a server and a bartender at a place in Cambridge, and constantly people, especially older people, think that there's like a designated amount of money that can accommodate for whatever your bill is that you can tip, right?
Right.
And you'd be surprised at how many people are...
Sorry, just to clarify, so you're saying, like, say the guy, whether he's spending $20 or $100, they think that the tip amount is like $5.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
right.
So we had a couple instances, like my last shift, where one of my servers, she had a table that spent about $150, and they had like a generic tip of $10.
Right.
Which is not even that's not even 7%
Right.
of the bill, right?
Right.
And you'd be surprised at how many servers are gonna, your service is gonna be downgraded from there, but at the same time, like at that point, usually people will leave after they pay their bill, right?
Right. So how could you downgrade the service after that, right?
Because sometimes people will stay, like people will
Okay.
hang out and they'll still try and order drinks, or they end up, I settled at my bill, I just want to keep going, and then that's gonna like diminish your service. But
Right.
what's unfortunate is, I know that in some places they have like a tip already generated every time, and when you have a tip generated, then there's an expectation what's going to be paid, so the service is obviously going to be at its best, right? But when you don't know what you're getting paid, like for a tip, you're still going to do your best service, but then you're going to get a really bad tip.
And be
because of
disappointed.
what you did wrong and why you didn't get what
Sorry, just to clarify, so you're saying when generated tip, that's like a predetermined tip by the restaurant or whatever that's attached to your bill already,
Yeah,
right?
it's an automated gratuity.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, like we do that at my work from like 8 people and above, but it's up to you if you want to do it. Like some people will risk getting like a tip that might be bigger than 15%, or they can just automate the 15% to make it.
So it's up to the server to decide what kind of tip.
Only if it's 8 people and above.
I see.
If you have like a group of 6 or you have a group of 4,
Okay.
then it's up to their discretion, right?
Okay.
But I just don't approve of the fact, like if you can't afford to tip your server properly, you can't afford to go out to eat.
Right.
You're not just paying for food to be cooked for you, but you're also paying for the service, right? You're paying for the dishes to be washed, but you're paying for the dishes to be cleaned off your table, to be, offered, like told what's the specials, what's going on, like what would be the best for that customer, and what you would recommend based on what they like and what they're coming in for.
So here's a question. So you mentioned like dishes being washed, right? That's being part of the meal. So I'm assuming the dishwasher person in the back is not sitting there thinking about how much tip they're going to receive that night, right?
No.
They already know how much they're going to get paid. Obviously, they're not...
There is a tip that's taken from the servers, and we tip out kitchen and dishwashers.
So they do get a percentage of the tip. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's where it becomes frustrating if you're not getting, the tip 15% or above, because if you're not making enough money that night, or it's a dead night, you're still going to have to tip out your kitchen and tip out your dishwasher out of your own pocket, right? Like,
but is that not also a percentage?
Yeah, so it is a percentage.
Right.
So at most places it is about 8%.
8% of your tip goes to the dishwasher.
Or like 5%, something like that.
Okay.
Not just dishwasher, but it'll be like a generated for kitchen, right?
Right.
And then that'll be dispersed. But let's say if you had a whole day or you had a huge table that you wanted to risk it, and you did want to put your automated gratuity on, and that's going to be $400, $500, even more food order. So you're going to have to tip from that amount of money to the kitchen. And if they don't tip you, like if everyone's tipping you maybe like $5 or like $3 or something like that, then that's more than likely going to come, like you're only going to make like maybe $5 or like $10, or if it's not enough, it'll come out of your pocket. Like in the United States, it's like that.
So if there's a pre-generated tip option, but you choose to forego that, and they tip you under, then you're obligated to pay the kitchen staff out of the tip percentage that would have been automatically generated.
So you, every night when you finish your shift, you have, whatever your food order is, like however much food has been spent on, so like if you spent like $600 like on food based on your revenues, then you have to tip out the kitchen from that $600.
So a percentage of that $600. It doesn't matter what you got for tips that night.
It doesn't matter,
It matters how much revenue you generated from
the food.
selling food.
Yeah, exactly. So that would have to be, and then obviously you have to tip out your bartender if you're a server as well.
Okay.
So whatever you have for alcoholic beverages or non-alcoholic beverages,
Right.
you can generate those together and then tip them out as well.
Okay, so a couple more questions. One thing is like, tip is based on percentage, right? So, I would think that like, if you were to bring out more expensive food, right, that doesn't necessarily require more prep or more work from you, right? Say if someone, instead of a burger, they ordered a steak, right? The amount of work that you put in is similar, right? If not the same.
Yep.
Yet the percentage tip would sometimes be double, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that maybe sometimes people who are ordering more expensive food should maybe adjust for that in the percentage, or do you think that doesn't matter? They should just...
I don't think that's something that's obvious. Like, I can see where you're coming from, but I don't agree with that in the sense that the kitchen is, whatever they're going to be cooking, if it's going to be something like a steak rather than like a pasta, they're going to have to put in more effort and more time into the food in the back, even though we're doing a similar service.
Is that always the case though? Like, I feel like something like steak is pretty simple to prepare, right? Or
it's a bit longer than if you were to have just like a regular entree. Like if you were to have like a chicken pot pie, or if you were to have like a pasta or something, that's going to come up a lot quicker than if you were to get like a ribeye steak.
Okay.
Right? And sometimes like there's been many times where, you know, a ribeye obviously isn't prepared to what the customer wants.
Right.
And like, you know, that's in itself having to maintain like a happy medium for the chef. And if they're new, or if they're not too familiar with doing ribeyes, then you're wasting ribeye, or they're not cooking it properly.
And it gets sent back.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then, but I know what you're saying, but it's not always generated by percentage. Like you can just, some people will give you like a high tip just based on
how
what
much they think you should get.
Was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the percentage rule is helpful because in that case, then you know what would be
reasonable.
The minimum tip amount, right?
So what do you think as a person who's in this profession? What would be like a reasonable percentage to be tipping?
So if I have a bad server, if I go to a restaurant and I don't like my service, they never fill up my waters, they don't come and ask if I'm doing, like, my food's good, you know, my food takes forever, and like, you know, I don't have any cutlery, whatever, I'll tip them 15%.
So that's the bare minimum,
yeah.
Is 15%.
If I have a great server and she's, you know, constantly checking on us, making sure all my drinks are filled and my food's great, and she's, you know, making sure my food's great, then I'll tip 20%.
Okay, so it's
maybe
between
25.
15 and 20, 25 if exceptional.
I'm a high tipper, though. Like when it comes to
right, because you yourself are, you know, experienced the other side of this.
Yeah,
okay.
And my roommate we work at this place together as well, and she's the same way. Like, and we understand that obviously there's going to be times where you can't really afford a tip, and we don't really expect a tip if we get like a takeout usually, right?
Right.
Like if someone comes to pick up food, then like, okay, you don't leave a tip, all right, that's fine. Like we're not serving you anyway.
Right.
But most cases when you have a tipper who isn't good, they are constantly asking for service on on a regular basis rather than like a typical person. So if you have,
so the people you've analyzed this, people who do less tipping will have more requests.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, but obviously you don't know that until they're gone, right?
Yeah,
until
you would think, oh man,
so
I'm doing so much stuff for this guy, he's gonna pay it off, and it doesn't happen.
Exactly. Okay. Especially like you'll have one person, like I've had people who will like ask for salt, and I'll be like, oh, like, do you want me to bring you by salt and pepper? And they're like, no, just salt. And then I'll bring by the salt, and then they'll be like, yeah, can I have some pepper? And I'm like, dude, I said I would bring them both by, but you said no, like.
But you say that in your head, right? You can't, or do you express that?
Yeah, no, of course I wouldn't say that to them. That's what I say in my head, or I say to the servers in the back of the kitchen. But
can you believe this guy?
Yeah, like seriously.
Yeah.
But like to be honest though, most people are pretty good. Like it's just those couple people, like it's mostly I find it would be elderly people that are
elderly people tip poorly.
Yes, they tip very poorly.
Okay. So how, like, poorly, like, percentage wise, what's the average you would think? 80%,
like
80-year-old?
7 or 8%.
Okay, but they're not leaving zero.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, like there's only been a couple times where I've had someone who didn't leave a tip at all.
Right.
And I find the only time you can kind of catch a vibe from somebody when they're like that.
Right.
Because, you know,
so
or
what's
they're
the vibe?
European, right?
Yeah, because in Europe they wouldn't be. So that brings up the other question of, like, do you think servers in North America are just generally underpaid to generate this tipping culture, right? Because like in most other businesses, tipping is not the norm, as far as I understand, right?
Yep.
But in service, it seems like to be the norm, especially in North America, not other places.
Yeah.
So do you think that would have to do with servers being underpaid? Because like, if you knew you weren't gonna tip, you might be, you know, more willing to spend more on your food.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know the exact data behind that. Maybe you wouldn't be able to because the tip comes afterwards. You don't see it on the menu.
No, it makes a lot more sense because then all of your menu items would be generated with a gratuity, right? Or like your whole
yeah, exactly.
Like
So if the prices were initially higher to account for paying our service staff higher from the beginning,
would that be better?
Would that be better? Because again, it leaves it out of the question, right? You don't have to be sitting there thinking, is this guy gonna tip? Is he not gonna tip? Should I do this? It becomes like, oh, I'm gonna give this service that's expected of me, and I'm expected to, you know, get this much at the end of the night, like any other business, right?
Yeah, I would say it's a lot more reliable. That's for sure, because it, you know, when you have tips coming in, you're gonna have nights where you're not gonna really make anything,
right?
And it's gonna feel like a waste of time. And then there's gonna be nights where you make $25 an hour to $30 an hour,
right?
And then you're like, oh my goodness, I love the service industry. But that's like, I feel like when people join the service industry, that's like the risk that they want to take,
right?
And
but why is that? Why is this industry the only one that risk is like an option? Why? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I honestly, I'm not too sure why, to be honest, because I know that in the United States they are paid like way underpaid. Like our server's wage in Ontario is about $12 an hour, which isn't really that bad. And then you're making tips on top of that, right?
But it's below minimum wage.
It is below minimum wage.
So what would that signal if you're getting paid below the minimum amount determined by the government that you should be paying someone, right? That's a little questionable.
It's just the reason why a lot of people probably wouldn't go with that is because if you
with
were
the
to look at
paid
if you were to look at like your 2-week, like the amount of income that you're getting, whether it be cash or direct deposit, like if you were to generate that all together in a 2-week period, it's going to be a lot more than rather if you were to be like making $15 an hour and you generate that over a 2-week period.
Does the taxation change if that happens?
So that's the thing too. So when you have tips, you can claim your tips, which I do. I claim a certain amount of my tips, so that obviously I don't get audited.
Right.
But you know, if you don't, then you're risking yourself getting audited, and the fact that like the government will hunt you down because you are taking it from the end of the table,
come get you.
But so even then, like if you're gonna have tips, you know, you're not gonna be obligated and documented for as many taxes that you're required to do, right? So I'm not saying that I do this, but I know that there's servers that I know that will make like, you know, probably like $10,000 over just in tips, maybe more over a year.
Yeah. And
you know, maybe they'll only claim like $2,500, right?
Yeah. Well, honestly, like I don't feel like the government should get a hand in literally every amount of money that gets, you know, transacted anywhere in the country. I feel like there's way too much taxation on a dollar. You know, like that person was tipping you. That tip was, you know, income taxed at some point. There's sales tax. There's all sorts of different taxes that are applied to the dollar. And then once they give it to you as a, you know, form of gratuity, they still take money off of that, which is kind of weird. But, you know, it happens to me too. You can tip Ubers, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes I'll be picking up a delivery, right? Like you go to McDonald's, you'll be waiting in the drive-thru of the McDonald's for like busy times. You could be there for 20-30 minutes, right? If you've made a horrible mistake and decided to do delivery at a bad time, you'll sit in the drive-thru for 30 minutes, and then you'll realize, oh, this guy who ordered the food lives down the street, which happens more often than you can imagine, because, you know, restaurants usually are, the restaurants you order from are usually the ones closest to you, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll have spent like half an hour at a drive-thru waiting for the guy's food who could have just walked down the street and get it himself, but he chose to have someone do it for him. And then after the half hour is over, it'll like signal on your thing you got like $3.50 or something, right? So you're working at like $6 an hour basically, and the guy will not leave a tip. So that will happen. And they can track how much time you spent on a delivery. That's there. Like it shows them in the app, this guy spent the last half an hour doing this delivery, and they're like, oh, sucks to be him, right? And again, like if you're ordering like McDonald's, right? If you want like, you know, a McDouble or something, you're not gonna want to spend $12 on delivery either. So there's that portion of it as well.
Yeah.
But again, you could just, you know, walk down the street and get it.
Yeah, for sure. And especially the fact that you're burning gas sitting in the drive-thru.
Yeah.
For how long? And
So,
I don't know. The only time I ever use like Skip the Dishes or like Uber Eats or whatever is if it's like a place that's like far from me. Like if it's like St. Louis or something.
Yeah, but I can tell you that most deliveries that are done on Uber are incredibly close distances, with an average about 4 to 5 minutes, or like $4 to $5 in delivery fee. And when you do the math on that per hour, it just becomes horrendous.
Yeah. Do you ever think of going into the service industry?
No. That does not sound like something I would be
interested in.
No, this is service enough as it is, I think, for now.
Yeah.